fellas, let's go. Here we go. Big play. Trips open right, 334 stretch, Z post, X stop, on two. Ready?
This is my dad's show.
It's called the Quarterback Dadcast.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast, and I'm excited to get to this next episode. But before that, I want to talk to you about my friends up at Acme Homes, which is one of the top home builders in the state of Washington. They're a home builder founded on the principles of honesty, integrity, and the goal of really building dreams for their customers. And what I love most about Acme is I know the owner. He's a former college teammate of mine, and he found the Quarterback Dadcast because of our friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods, who've been a sponsor for us for now almost over a year. But what I love about Acme Homes, not because I love Bob and he's a salt of the earth guy, but when I had a chance to look at their website, when I had the chance to look at some of their homes and the craftsmanship, I was blown away. Established in 2006, Acme Homes provides itself on quality, professional service. They're innovative, functional. They have beautiful designs, competitive pricing, but most above all, you get what you pay for, and you get service. And Bob and his team consistently are one of the top home builders in the state of Washington. And right now, I want you to visit their site at acmehomeswa.com. That's acmehomeswa.com to learn about Sienna Heights. Over in Wenatchee right now, where it's always sunny, you can look at some amazing floor plans. They have anywhere from 1,900 square feet to 2,600 square feet. You got 4-bedroom, you got 3-bedroom. These homes start in the low 500,000. And as we think about getting away from this yucky Seattle weather right now, now's the time. With everybody having more flexibility to work remote and get to the east side of the state, now's the time to invest in that second home or maybe that first home you're going to move over to Wenatchee. Now's the time to do it. So I ask you to contact Bob and his team now at Acme, which is 425-903-1453. Also, if you have real estate inquiries, contact Jennifer or Denise at 425-308-8082 or 425-309-2318. So, huge shout out to Bob and team at Acme. I welcome you to the Quarterback Dadcast, and I hope that everyone takes time out of their day to take a look at Sienna Heights. But with that, let's get to today's episode. Well, hey, everybody, it's Casey Jaycox again with the Quarterback Dadcast, and I'm excited for this next guest because you don't get too often to speak to a friend from New Zealand. And this next guest, his name is Paul Dodds, and he was graciously kind enough to invite me onto his podcast, which is called Insights into Success. Like I mentioned, he is from New Zealand. He is an entrepreneur. He has a website called Making Sense of Marketing, where he provides free resources. So for all you dads out there, all you small business owners, or even moms listening, we'll make sure we show how you can connect with Paul and learn more about the work he's doing. But with all those great things said, that's not why we're having on here today. We're going to learn about Paul the dad. And we're going to learn about how Paul is working and striving to become that ultimate quarterback of his household, just like everybody who listens to the show is. So with that, Mr. Paul Dodds, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here today, to be honest. It's I'm looking forward to talking about some stuff that probably I haven't really talked about and hopefully sharing some of my experiences in the hope that it will help others as well.
Cool. Well, in true QB Dadcast fashion, I like to start off every episode with, what are you most grateful for as a father right now?
To have 2 healthy children, number one. Easy.
Okay. Yep. That's always a common answer, but it's one answer that you never can take for granted enough. For me, I'm grateful for. I know we talked right before we got off the air. So right now we're recording in June. When this episode comes out, everybody will probably be towards the end of the summer. And I'm grateful. My son just got done with his first golf tournament, and he was super nervous, but he played well, and he and even dads with kids who play golf, the anxiety that goes into watching the sport because it's you, a metal shaft, and a golf ball, and it's tough to hide behind that. And then I'm also grateful for my daughter. She's at a basketball camp, overnight camp, and so with all the shenanigans of COVID, to be able to be in an environment where they could safely do it and have that experience as a camper, it's the best. So I'm a happy dad today.
Can I just say, like, for mine, my answer's not, it kind of might come across as a bit of a cliche, but for me, within my family and within my extended family, we've actually had a lot of health issues. So for me, given the experiences, and we're going to probably talk about this shortly, health is a very big issue for me because of that. So I'm not just saying it because it's kind of like a bit of a cliche. It's because it's really been a real issue in our family. So, yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
And the other thing I just want to say too to everyone listening is you're on the last day of June. I'm actually in July. We're in different months right now.
That is so. That's one thing Paul and I had to get you. And thankfully, Paul, the time zones better than I do because you were like my mentor in helping me figure out what day I'm at. And Paul would not tell us the winning lotto, so don't even think about asking him.
No.
I already tried.
Yeah, sorry about that. No,
it's all good. Well, let's get going. So tell me about what does the current family look like, and what does a day in the life look like in the Dodds household?
Okay, so we've got two boys. I'm married to Nicola, and our two boys, Brandon and Nathan. Brandon's at a university in the South called Otago, and he's studying a double degree in law and I was going to say finance. It's not finance. He's probably going to major in economics, so a cross between business and law. And then Nathan, he is 18 and he's in his first year at university here in Auckland, and he's studying a communications degree at the moment. So, yeah, so Brandon's normally away from home down in Dunedin, flatting. So you might not know where flatting is.
Educate us.
So flatting is sharing accommodation with other people, so similar age people. That what happens is a group of could be anything from maybe 3 or 4 people up to maybe even 6 or 7 people go and they find a house to rent, and we call that a flat.
Okay.
So they're renting a flat down there, and then Nathan, he lives at home, and he just commutes into university every day. But Brandon's home at the moment. They're both on holiday, so it's really nice to have both the boys at home for a couple of weeks.
Very cool. And how long have you been married?
We've been married 20 years. Yeah, we were in 2021, aren't we? Yeah, so 20 years. Yeah.
Very cool. Congrats. So tell me about life growing up for you. What did that look like? What did mom and dad do? Brothers and sisters, etc.
Yeah, so I was the youngest of 4, 3 older sisters. So I was the baby. My dad originally was a builder, and he then retrained to become a school teacher. So, yeah, I was, how many years? I think I'm about 3 years younger than my younger sister. And my oldest sister, I think, is about 6 years older than me. But yeah, our life was really affected by the fact that what happened was we were living, after my father trained as a school teacher, he was on his first job, and my mother's mother got leukemia and became terminally ill. So we relocated back to a town reasonably close to where my grandmother lived. However, what happened was my father then got Hodgkin's disease within a short space of time of us relocating. And I was, I think, probably only about 6 years old at the time. So we were in a situation where both my grandmother and my father were in hospital. My sisters and I were all sent away to our relatives. So myself and my younger sister went to one family, and my other 2 sisters went to a different family, and we had to live with them while my mother was commuting to the hospital to see both her mother and my father. So that was that, and that really has shaped the rest of my life, really, to be honest. He managed to get through it. But at that stage, Hodgkin's disease now has a pretty high cure rate. But when he had it, it wasn't so good. I know his lungs collapsed on the operating table and he was close to dying. But he managed to pull through. However, so we were living away with relatives, and ultimately when he came home, we came back to home. However, my father was never quite the same for the rest of his life, really, insofar as I think psychologically it impacted on him. And we're talking, I don't know how many years ago, 30 years ago or whatever, that we weren't so good then, at least in New Zealand, with dealing with the whole psychological side of things and giving people help. The other thing, too, was that he had side effects. So he got very tired. So he, found that he had to go back to teaching at school in order to, pay the bills effectively. I mean, he'd been without a job or not bringing in any income for an extended period while he fought his illness. So the pressure was on him to get back to his job that he'd employed in. So, he was back working when he probably shouldn't have been. And, the weekends he would be exhausted. And even my mother, would have to sort of get him up in the morning, give him breakfast in bed, and then, get him up and go to work because his work at school was just draining him completely. And at the weekend, as I say, he was just exhausted. So for me, that's had a huge impact on my life because he was never well enough to come and watch me play sport. So in America, you've got American football. In New Zealand, we have this game called rugby. So that's our national sport. It's a sport played by a lot of countries in the world. It was invented in England. We have, though, the preeminent team in the world and have done since the early 1900s. Just as an aside, our national team, which is called the All Blacks, they wear all black uniform. They actually have the highest winning success rate out of any sports team across any sport in the world, which is quite remarkable because we play a lot of games, it's what we call tests, which is a game between nations. And, there's a lot high level of competition. And we're only a small country. We've only got 5 million people. So the numbers are stacked against us, but because of their DNA and the passion we have for that sport, we punch well above our weight. So anyway, I'm digressing there. But so my dad never got to watch me play rugby. He never came to a game. The only time I'm aware that he actually ever saw me play rugby was when he was teaching at school and he looked out the window and he saw me score a try, which is our equivalent of a touchdown. While I was playing at school. So otherwise, he never got to see me play. And another sport that we play for summer, I guess our equivalent of your baseball, although it's not entirely, is cricket. And I remember him getting a family friend to come and bowl to me cricket at home because he wasn't up to it physically. He just wasn't up to it. So, I just looking back, I feel like I missed out on a lot. I don't, from my point of view, I don't bear any grudge or anything about it, but it does, my memories are tinged with sadness, the fact that I never got that opportunity to sort of have that time with my dad, with him, participating and watching me play sport. So that's really shaped me and what I've done with my children as a consequence of that. So
I'm gonna roll. I want to stop there real quick, Paul. You shared a lot, and I'm just like I'm trying to visualize you at 6 years old. You and your sister, you got to go live with an aunt, an uncle, or whoever. Like, tell me how hard that was, and how long did this go on for?
Yeah, so I think from memory, I think it went on for about 8 months or so. For me, because I was really young, it wasn't too hard for me. It was harder actually on my sister, and I know that to this day, my sister kind of, has bad memories of it. I think she felt that our aunt and uncle were pretty hard on us. We were living on a farm, and I think they were fairly strong disciplinarians. But, being like 6 or 7 years old by that stage, I was pretty resilient, so just kind of went with the flow a bit. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was kind of okay, but obviously, you had no choice in it. So you just had to accept that your dad was in hospital. You weren't quite sure what was going to happen there. And you were living with cousins, and they were girls too, by the way. So I was surrounded by girls yet again. But it was on a farm, and that was a bit of an adventure for me. So I got a chance to go and help feeding the animals. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all bad for me.
Okay. How did the relationship between your siblings as you got older, how did that experience shape you?
Yeah, so what actually happened is my two older sisters ended up staying away and going to a school where they were at when my father was sick. The reason for that kind of was it was a better school in a bigger town, whereas we were in a small town. And being the children of a teacher, I don't know how that works in America, but in New Zealand you can be subjected to bullying because of being a teacher's child. So ultimately all my three sisters ended up going away to another town to school. I was actually the only one that stayed at that school. For me, I was subjected to bullying at school, but I was good at handling it. So it wasn't really that big a major for me, and I think it was actually really good character building for me. But yeah, my sisters couldn't handle that either, so they went away. So really, our family, we were quite disjointed, really. So I had three sisters in another town. So I was like an only child there to some extent. And with the age differences as well, with me being, at least 3 years younger than my youngest sister, there was a bit of a gap. So, I guess it just was what it was. So you just accept it and you move on. But we certainly didn't have the opportunity for us all to be together all the time and growing up together like you would in, the kind of most families that you would expect. But we just had to adapt.
Well, it's a great story of resiliency and grit, and I bet you those skill sets where you have now as an entrepreneur, but you can tie it back to some of these experiences you had.
Yeah.
Tell me the hardest part about seeing your dad go through this for you, and then the hardest part about the hardest part about him not being able to watch you play.
Yeah, it's just super sad, just really sad. And the other thing, Casey, that was sad was that my dad, he came from a family where his mother ended up divorcing his father at a young age, which is back at a time when, divorce was not really seen as the thing to do. And so he came from a poor family. And what I, subsequently learned was that his mother wasn't big on showing affection. So he grew up with little visible affection from his mother without a father for an extended period of time. So, my understanding of his upbringing is quite sad. I felt that he really missed out on a lot. So for me, I have, went out of my way, I guess we can talk about, to ensure that didn't happen with my children. But I remember growing up just as a 15 and 16-year-old and deliberately going and giving my dad a hug, because I knew that talking to my mum and that he had difficulty in showing emotion. I knew that he really cared, but he didn't know how to show that. And I felt quite sad for him for that. He certainly wouldn't go around telling you he loved you, but I never had a problem with that, because I never felt that it wasn't because he didn't love me or my sisters. It's just that he didn't know how to say it. So, I felt a lot of sadness towards him, to be honest. And, we can talk about what ultimately happened to him, but I think he had a pretty rough life. So, yeah.
I think, I was going to say, I think that's, I think there's a lot of dads in America and even around the world that probably can relate to that story a little bit, because, one of the reasons around this podcast I wanted to hopefully help inspire dads was just to be able to talk and communicate, and don't just keep emotions in, and put those in that cigar box. That cigar box can only hold so many emotions before it explodes. And words like humility and vulnerability, it's like sometimes those are seen as quote unquote soft. But to me, I think they're it takes the ultimate strength to talk about what you suck at, what you're not good at, where you need help. showing weakness is actually a sign of showing strength in my mind.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Yeah. Weak people are the people that won't accept their own faults. The strong people are the ones who will own up. And it's the same with telling the truth. People that go around telling lies are weak. The strong people are the people that are prepared to put their hand up and tell the truth and accept that they've made mistakes and own it.
Yeah. That's a great nugget wisdom right there you just dropped. I love that. So for dads out there, man, if you're holding stuff in, speak up. Let's talk about ways you can become a better father. And I hope from this episode we get done, we learn from ways you can apply some of the things that Paul and I talk about to be that ultimate leader of your household. As you think about like your journey as a dad, as a son into a fatherhood, what are some experiences that you took from your mom and dad that shaped you that you have used to parent your kids currently?
Yeah. So, firstly, getting back to the whole affection, I go out of my way without getting silly about it, telling my boys that I love them. And I think too, because we're males, particularly, I don't know about so much America, although I've spent a lot of time there, but in New Zealand, it's not really the done thing. Like the males, we don't go around showing a lot of affection and that. But because of my father and the sadness towards his experience, without getting carried away, I regularly tell my boys that I love them and give them hugs. I think that's just super important, and I don't want them to have any be under any illusion, for them to be clear that they are, well loved by both their father and their mother, and that we tell them that. So that's definitely been something that's come directly out of seeing my father and his experience. And then with the sport, what I've done is I went and coached my son's rugby team. So I coached that team for 7 years, and it was the best thing I ever have done so far. I loved every moment of it, not just to spend time with my son, but also all the other boys. So from under 6 years old right through for 7 years, I coached pretty much the same team. There's a few changes during that time. And again, that was just so that my son didn't have the experience that I had of not having a connection with his dad playing sport. So, yeah, so that's something else too, deliberately, that's come out of my father's experience.
Describe the impact you think that's had on your kids that you've seen. Like you created, that's their normal, right? Their normal is that their dad says I love you, and they don't know anything different. Have you ever talked to them about the relationship you have with your dad or their grandpa?
A little bit, yeah, I have. Not. I wouldn't say probably maybe enough, but I definitely have said to them, both of them, that my dad, had difficulty showing his emotion, and I didn't want that to be the case with us, and I don't want them to feel that they're not loved, and no matter what they are. Like my second son's not into sport. And my important message for me with him is just that, love him for who he is and whatever that may end up being. I don't want him to feel like he has to fit a certain type. I just want him to be himself, whatever that is, and to be happy. To be happy is critical. So I want them both to be well-adjusted individuals that are really happy and proud of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like in anything in life, being a lifelong learner is something that I'm very grateful for. Like I love learning. I love asking questions. I love being curious. And I think having this podcast, I get to meet so many great people and unique people and hear stories. And when I think about, people read books, but I don't, they read books, they'll go to classes, but like from a dad's perspective, I think just like people might be learning from us today, I'm learning from this conversation. And, one of the things with that said is we have to figure out ways to kind of, be the best version of ourselves. And I think one of the things I learned from my friend named Bert, who lives in Boston, he talked about, what's your end game? Like, what's the end goal? And I think in the end, you did a great job of being happy. And what is happy? Like, I think we got to keep digging deep in that conversation to have our kids. And I use this framework called TED, which is tell me, explain, describe. Like, describe what happy is. And we have to be okay to love our kids where they are, not where we think they should be. Yeah. Or where we want them to go.
Yeah.
because so much of that we can't control, right? And I love even like I don't know if you guys have heard about this phrase from in America. I've heard of my circle of friends is the car ride home mentality, meaning when your kid plays a sport and then on that car ride home, that's the way for you as the adult to kind of take control and coach them, and which is they don't want to, and the analogy is, imagine if you had a bad day at work.
Yeah.
And you're in the car, you're driving home, and your son's in the back seat just ripping you about your typing skills, how you didn't run that webinar correctly, how your marketing was off today. Like, you want to just veg and like be ready to talk on when it's on your terms.
Yeah. True. That's a good point.
So as you think about like your life journey, your dad journey, what is an area of your dad game that you're working on that maybe is not the best for you, that you want to just continue to work on, trying to be that better version of yourself so you can be the ultimate QB of your household?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. I think...
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jaycox with Quarterback Dadcast. We're going to take a quick break right now to talk about Catch Sitka Seafoods, who's been with our kind sponsors now for nearly a year. And so thanks to Assam and Mindy and team up at Catch Sitka Seafoods. And so I want to talk about something today that might be a little early, you might be thinking, but it's not. It's going to be here before we know it. And that is, let's get ahead of it and let's think about holiday shopping specifically for our clients. So they have holiday gift boxes that are amazing. You can get wild Alaskan salmon, halibut, Applewood smoked fish. I've had them all. They're amazing. But what they have also that's really, really great is a commemorative cedar plank made from the Sitka cedar. Perfect for creating that charcuterie board, and a jar of their incredible Catch Sitka seafood sea salt made from the cold, clear waters of the Pacific, and absolutely perfect, a final touch to your plate and platter. So with that, don't wait. Get on their site right now to catchsitkaseafoods.com and order some holiday gifts. Get ahead of it. They have subscription models very available. Again, catchsitkaseafoods.com. Now let's get back to the rest of this episode.
For me, the challenge, one of the challenges has been, being a male and having two boys, and the whole kind of like alpha male kind of thing and how to deal with them, to have their respect and to do it in a way where, it's not physical. As males, I think it's quite natural to be physical, and I guess as your the boys get older, physically they'll get bigger. So the challenge as a dad is to handle that. I mean, like my boys, I'm 6'1", but my oldest son is 6'4", and my youngest son's 6'2". So I used to be the biggest in the family, the tallest in the family. I'm not anymore. So, I've had to adjust to that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's just that challenge of just being able to deal with situations with boys, but not be physical. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest and say there's been times when they were younger, not now, but times when they're younger when, I was physical and I shouldn't have been. And it's all part of that whole male thing and trying to, I guess, exert your dominance over them. Mm-hmm. But, irrespective of physical strength, my boys now are taller than me. So that's a good way to really make you reflect on how you deal with things and try and do it better. So mm-hmm. I'm definitely still a work in progress. But there's times when you get mad. And
we're humans,
how do you deal with that? Pardon?
I said we're humans, we're flawed.
Yeah, absolutely. And, no one gives us a manual when we, have children. And I think it's great what you're doing because it's like, gosh, we all have these experiences, and it'd be great if we could get some tips from other people so we don't make the mistakes that others make. Mm-hmm. So it's not easy. It's not easy. We're bringing up two human beings in our case, and you want to do the best job you can, but yourself that you're flawed and you make mistakes. But that's actually something I want to bring up too. There's that, Casey, for me, it's really important to apologize when you do make a mistake. And that's something I've at times, it's been hard. You're like, oh my God. But I can honestly say I've been pretty good. I don't know if I've been perfect, but I'll probably give myself an 8 out of 10 for being willing to apologize to my children or to my wife in front of my children if I do things wrong, because I think that's really important. I think that's a super important lesson, is that we need to show our children that we do make mistakes, and that the character is in acknowledging those mistakes and actually owning it. And I think if you can do that, I think they're more likely to respect you. But if you have this attitude, well, I don't make mistakes, I want them to have this false ideal, then I don't think that's healthy. It's not going to help them, and it's not helping you either.
No, those are three words that are very hard to say for some. And when I think episode 9 or 10 of this journey together, we're almost, when this comes out, we'll be over 100.
Wow.
But we did an episode on those 3 words, my friend Darren Ballmore's, on the power of saying I'm sorry. And you nailed it, man. What a gift. We expect our kids to own their mistakes, but we're not. We're too big to own them from them. That's BS. It's hypocritical.
Yeah.
And I think once you show your kids that no one's perfect, there's no such thing, not even close to being perfect. But when we can be on this lifelong journey of growth together, and there's going to be good days and bad, and just because you have a bad day doesn't mean you're a bad person. But I think lying to yourself and lying to your kids and your wife or partner, whoever you're with, is like, but own it. And what a gift. Because I swear, playing football in college, shout out to Uncle Rico, Napoleon Dynamite. I got to keep that going for every time I say Uncle Rico in a podcast interview. Watching film of yourself. Yeah. The film never lies. I don't know if you did it in rugby, but the film never lies. And so I had that same mindset as a dad, like, listen, you're going to make mistakes, but what do you do about it? And I think what Paul's talking about to everybody at home is own it. And what a gift. So I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, it's quite therapeutic too, to be honest, or at least I've found it to be that. You actually feel good about yourself afterwards. You've got a load off your shoulders having owned, that mistake. So yeah, for me, it's not easy, but it actually feels good afterwards.
Talk about the hardest part of being a present dad. I mean, now your kids are in university, but the hard about maybe when your kids were in their teen years, and the hardest part about being a present dad and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to run a business, you get really engrossed in that, and of course, if you're motivated, like pretty much any entrepreneur would be, you want to succeed. So the challenge is to actually be able to step out of that and be present when your kids are around, and give them quality time, and not just be all consumed with your business. But I think though that it's healthy though as well, and I think it's probably for your business, probably it's a good thing as well to become disciplined to do that. But it's not easy though, because inherently we have this inbuilt in us, I would say, without trying to generalize, but that, as a male, that you want to provide for the family, so you feel that pressure to go out and to be successful, but you just got to be careful what cost. Yeah, I mean, you could end up, with a whole lot of money, but you could also end up with a very dysfunctional family where, you're disconnected from your children. Mm-hmm. And what price can you put on that? So it's important to get that balance. I think because of what I've been through with my father and that, I think I'm a bit more attuned to the issue than maybe what some people are. But I'm certainly not perfect. I'm certainly could improve a lot in that regard. But actually, that just reminds me another thing that we've did, because of my dad. My dad was really good at taking us traveling around New Zealand. But, we didn't have a lot of money because of his illness and that, so we never went overseas. But my children, we've traveled to America, with Europe a few times and stuff. So we've really made a point of taking our kids overseas to see other cultures, other countries, to help, hopefully to broaden their perspective and make them more well-rounded individuals.
That's cool. Tell me your most proud moment as a father.
again, it'd be a bit of a cliche, but seeing both my boys born, I was there for both their births and took a photo of them soon afterwards. And, it's just such an amazing experience doing that. So that would have to be the number one highlight. But, yeah, I don't know. There's so much to be proud of, really, of them, and it's just such an amazing joy to watch them as little babies grow into these little toddlers and stuff. And that sort of age, they're so innocent in that. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely, it's a shame. I'd like to have repeated the process, but it's a bit late now.
Yeah, well, medically, that I can't do that, thankfully. So I'm officially in retirement,
right.
baby making skills. When we think of you talked about your kids are 6'4", 6'2", they're bigger. It's the challenging things of dealing with maybe tough situations, and you can't obviously get physical. No one wants to do that. But what are some? Can you think of some specific thoughts or processes you go through from a mindset perspective, or what's talk tracks, or things you do for yourself so that you're that present father, you're staying patient, you're not freaking out, but you're handling the situation with the most level-headed nature. Is there anything that come to mind that people at home might be able to learn from you?
I think just the thing that jumps out to me that I try and do is when I get really angry in the moment is to try and step outside myself and take the emotion out of it and look at the situation objectively. My biggest fault is getting in the situation and being very emotional in that situation and becoming irrational and doing things or saying things that ordinarily I wouldn't. So the challenge for me is just to recognize when that's developing and to pause and step outside myself and try and take the emotion out of it and be the adult. But there's been many times where, I'm the child, the way I'm behaving, so it's just to try and do something, have some sort of technique that when you're in a challenging position to try and take the emotion out of it, engage your brain. Not a lot of good things happen when it's all about emotion. You've got to think with your intelligent self. So, yeah, that's the challenge for me, is just to try and recognize that I'm in an emotional state and then to try and shift that to an intelligent state. In which case, I know if I'm in my intelligent state, I'm likely to make some pretty decent decisions. But if I stay emotional, it's not likely to be a good outcome.
I'm writing that down. I like that. Emotional state to intelligent state.
Yeah.
And stepping outside. That's good.
And that's what I talk about to staff at my business too, is, we've all got to recognize we can be in an emotional state or an intelligent state, and try and be in an intelligent state when you make decisions. Because when we're emotional, chances are we're not going to make good decisions.
So true. I do some consulting work for a company called Limitless Minds, and we talk about a phrase called staying neutral.
Yeah.
In thinking and not getting too high, too low. And as a former quarterback in college, that spoke to me about just because we complete a pass, you do something great, we'll get back on the huddle, you got 35 seconds to call play and do it again.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that. From an entrepreneurial perspective, have there been times or experiences from a dad's perspective that you've used your line of work to help kind of teach lessons of adversity or times of success that you feel your kids have gleaned onto that maybe other entrepreneurial dads could learn from at home?
Yeah, I've had some good success, but I've also had some failures as well. Things that haven't gone right, and I've certainly been comfortable in talking to the boys about it and making them aware of it, because I think it's important that we role model. And yesterday I just had a situation which I won't go too much into, but there's a group of us who were running a competition. So it wasn't business, and it was an exercise competition. You wear heart monitors, and the higher your heart rate, the more points you get. Now, I've kind of made a commitment right from the beginning of the month, is that I didn't want to get into the high rate, because at that rate you then potentially burn muscle. And what I want to do is burn fat and build muscle. So I need to keep my heart rate down. Anyway, so I was always accepted I was going to be in the middle of the pack. But we got to yesterday, and there's a friend of mine was in third position, and I was in fourth out of 12. And he was quite a bit ahead of me. And anyway, I just sort of have a bit of fun here. I'll have a crack at him. And normally in a day, you get about sort of 300 points maybe. And he was worried about me. So he went out, he took half the day off work, and he went out and he scored just under 1,000 points. Now, by the time he registered that on the app, I had scored about 300 points. But what he didn't know is I had my belt still on, and I had another 550 up my sleeve that he didn't know I had. But when I saw it, though, he was 1,062 points ahead of me. But then I had my 550. So I was still, 500 odd points behind him. And at that moment, it would have been really easy to go, no, I'll just quit, because he's so far ahead of me. And so my sons were around. So I just said to him, you know what, I'm going to have a crack at this. So I stayed up last night exercising to 11:15, cut off was midnight, to beat him. And during the process, I would go out and exercise and come back, get something to eat, have a drink, and then go back. And I had my son there, and I was talking about what I'm doing and that. And part of it was just to give him the message about not quitting, and what you can do if you really set your mind to it. And so much of it's mind over matter. So suffice to say, I did it. I beat the guy. So he put in a day of 1,000 points, or just under 1,000 points. I did 1,500 points for the day to beat him. Is he
still your friend?
He's awesome. He was really gracious. He sent me a text and said that was amazing.
Wow.
So that was really cool. But yeah, so I think it's important, if we can, is just rather than talk. Talk's good, but also action, to demonstrate. So for me, it was a lesson on don't quit. Fight to the end.
Well, in the end, you both won because you both got fit, you both got healthier, you both work each other, you both push each other, which I think that's why I'm a big into fitness myself. And I think we did versions of CrossFit, and I don't do really CrossFit anymore, but it's like when you're working out with your friends and you push each other, it's funny, I joke, but as I'm getting older, my fitness goals have changed, and now they're don't get fat and don't get hurt. But I asked that question because there's things I've done that I've found have been good therapeutic reminders for me. I don't know if this relates to you and your line of work, but the art of practice is for some reason out of style in America. I don't know why. Yeah. Some companies just don't want to do it and they wing it. And I think you said talk about your failures. Earlier this year, late 2020, I applied for a TED Talk, didn't get selected. First people I wanted to go tell was my kids, hey, guess what? Dad tried to get this. They didn't think my idea was the right one, or I wasn't the right fit, and I didn't get it. I'm bummed, but I like sharing those stories to know that, hey, mom and dad aren't perfect. They're not even close to it. Then the reason I bring up practice is like whether I'm getting ready to do a coaching session or a webinar or a speaking at the company, I'm still going to practice that. And I'll tell the kids, hey guys, dad's going in to practice. Give me 15, 20 minutes because I want to be in my office. And I do it for one, obviously I want the privacy, but two, I want them to know that if I'm encouraging them to go shoot free throws or practice golf or read or whatever it may be, that if we all practice, then you're just constantly you're building that mindset of that lifelong learner that I hope my kids take from me.
Yeah, and I think that's super important. And I think it's across the board. I think we're just, a lot of people, myself, I'm guilty of it, are inherently lazy. So we don't want to practice. My failing in sport was I was inherently lazy. I didn't want to train much. I just wanted to play, and it doesn't work. You look at, the history of like Michael Jordan and great sportsmen like him, and they got to where they were because they practiced. And it was, the commitment that they showed was outstanding, and they got the rewards from that. But I think, a lot of us can be lazy and we just want to cut to the chase. But ultimately, there's enough evidence out there to show it doesn't work. You need to practice to be good at something. You just can't keep winging it. It doesn't work like that. And like with these podcasts, I don't know about you. I mean, I've got a long way to go, but the more we do these, hopefully the better we're getting, because we're getting that practice in.
Right.
And hopefully the content's good enough that people will forgive us, if we're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's practice.
100%. And that's such an important thing for us to realize. And we can practice being dads. Like, you might be thinking, well, how? Well, find one or two dads you think are better than you and ask them, tell me one thing I can do better as a dad from your perspective.
Yeah.
And be open to what they might tell you. Might not be what you want to hear, but if you surround yourself with other dads who you emulate, you're probably going to start learning what they're doing and start doing things they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, before we get into some fun stuff, Paul, as you think about, what we've talked about thus far with, the power of affection, the power of, apology and mindset and exercise and everything we've talked about. If you had to, summarize into actionable tasks the dads at home can learn from what we've talked about today, so they can become that ultimate leader of their home, what would be the advice you'd share with them?
Yeah. So I think firstly, just get out there and make sure you tell your children that you love them no matter what, unconditionally. And the more you say it, the better you'll get at it. Obviously, you want it to be sincere. So keep that in perspective, but it's important. It's like a muscle. You got to keep exercising it to get good at it. Also, accept that you're not perfect and be willing to own up to that. And remember that in itself is a great lesson for your children, which, they can hopefully then pass on to their own children. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. So own that and feel empowered for it. I think, that's really important. And just love your children for who they are. Accept it. Don't put them in little boxes and expect them to be the same. I just think, how boring would the world be if we were all the same? We should, celebrate our differences. It's so disappointing and scary when people get judged because they look different or their interests are different and what have you. How boring. Imagine if we all looked the same. Imagine if we're all the same color. We all had the same sort of features and the same interests. How the hell boring would this world be?
I know.
We need to remember that and celebrate our differences. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the fact that we're not the same. Like, when I come to America, I want to see America different to New Zealand.
Right.
It's not about America being better or worse, but I want it to be different. And that's one of the things with the way, the internet is bringing us together, and the differences are getting smaller to what they were. But I love going to other countries and celebrating their differences. The worst thing to see is someone that travels around the world and all they do is complain. They complain about there's always finding fault.
Right.
Forget finding fault. Celebrate the differences. Take a positive attitude and enjoy the different countries and the different cultures for what they are. And I think if we all had that attitude, it would be a hell of a better place.
So true, and specifically what we went through in 2020 with some of the social unrest. I don't know how bad it was in New Zealand, but in America it was very, very bad. And I think a lot of people are pushing themselves to be uncomfortable, to ask themselves tough questions. And I've had a lot of growth from understanding more about, to me, and this is my opinion, it's like my white privilege, and understanding more about what that means. And I've had more conversations with my friends of color about racism and diversity. And I find it, before I was a little uncomfortable having those. Now I love having them as much as I can. And I even challenged my kids. I said, I want you to find friends that don't look like you.
Yeah.
And learn about different cultures and learn about, I want friends that come into our house that don't look like us. Then we're all going to be learning. And I think if we take that mindset, and just listen to learn versus listen to persuade, watch what happens. I mean, I totally agree with you about just changing what the world is. So
totally agree.
Well, this has been awesome. As we think about, before we go into what I call my lightning round, if you could change any part of your dad journey,
Yeah.
As you look back, obviously not like as a negative, but like anything you do differently. What would maybe a younger dad learn from you?
Yeah, look, the number one thing for me would be to disengage from my emotional state and be in my intelligent state. I feel that I would have been a much better parent to date if I was in much more control and able to recognize when I was in an emotional state and shift out of that to my intelligent state. I mean, I've made so many mistakes over the years with my parenting, which all comes down to being in an emotional state and not snapping out of that. So that for me is the number one easily mistake that I've made.
Well, we have that in common. My gap, I've said this on multiple different podcasts, is I think being a competitive person, the usual flaw of that is patience.
Yeah.
And so I have to be super self-aware and be present. And as I think about things when things don't go well for me, like, is it because I had this unrealistic view of what that should look like? And that's not no one's fault but my own. I'm creating these unhealthy, unrealistic expectations. But I wrote that down, and I hope everybody did. Again, emotional state versus intelligent state. So I think hopefully everybody who's listening right now, please take that to heart. You got two people who are speaking from negative experience. We wish we could do it differently. So
yeah, for sure.
Okay, lightning round time. This is where I ask you the most random, weird, bizarre, anything that comes to my mind. You're gonna learn about why quarterbacks in America got a screw loose. We don't. The elevator does not go to the top. Are you ready?
Can I just, before you do that, can I just make one suggestion? Just putting it out there. If you're ever interested, we could always do a podcast where we talk about the differences between American football and rugby. Just putting it out there to talk about.
So, the easiest one is you play real football. We're wussies. We have to have pads. You guys are tougher than us. I mean, I played football at a school called Central Washington University. They had a rugby team in 1998 that was just getting kicked off. Well, now their rugby team is like one of the best in the nation.
Wow.
My school is a Division II school. They play Division I rugby.
Right.
And these guys are animals. I'm like, God. I had to put a helmet on and pads. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Screw that. So, and the thing I love about rugby, this is what I've been told, is you play these intense matches and then you go drink beer with each other afterward.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, talking about it. That's just awesome.
Part of the camaraderie, yeah. We don't have all the TV commercial breaks that you have in American football.
Yeah, well, that's better. I'm jealous of that then.
Yeah.
Okay, lightning round. If you were to go on vacation right now, where are you going?
Right now, well, we don't have a lot of choices, but if I could go anywhere right now, I'd just like to go to Pacific Islands, just to a nice, because it's middle of winter here, so just to a nice warm beach.
Okay. What was the last book you read?
The last book I actually completed, because I'm reading one on Ulysses S. Grant at the moment. So what was the last one I just read? Crikey Dickens. That's a hard one. Can I just say this? I need to start writing down the books I read and making notes of them, because I read quite a bit and then I don't make notes and then I get lost in them all and what they were. So I've not the very last one. The last one I really remember reading was the Nike story. That was really good. I enjoyed that.
Blue Ribbon Sports?
It was about Blue Ribbon Sports, but it was just called Nike, I think. But it was really good.
I read the book.
Yeah.
What does Crikey Dickens mean?
Crikey Dickens, gosh. So that's like, that's unbelievable. I can't believe that. I'm
going to try to bring that to the States. See if I can bring that to the States. If I'm coming to your house for dinner tonight, what are you cooking?
All right. It varies a lot. Last night we had burritos. Tonight I don't know exactly what. I'll tell you what we are having tonight. This isn't good though, Casey, but this isn't a treat because of all my exercise. I propose that we have KFC tonight. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Don't have it often, but I've burnt that many calories with my exercise. I think I deserve a reward.
Perfect. I like to see KFCs make it to New Zealand. That's impressive. What is your most favorite American movie you've ever seen?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. What would be the most favorite American movie I've seen? I know the one I've seen the most. Dare I say it? But that was Top Gun. Because I'm a bit of a war buff kind of guy, and that's all glamorized and stuff. So I've watched that one the most, but it wouldn't be the best movie I've seen, American movie. What the hell? What would be? God, this is hard. I don't know.
Have you seen Caddyshack?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay, good.
Years ago, that was good. That was funny. Hard question. I'm not sure what I could give you as a real answer, to be honest. But yeah, Top Gun's the one I've seen the most. But yeah,
Goose and Maverick.
Sorry,
I said Goose and Maverick.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Can I just say, what on earth was anyone thinking, allowing him to do the John Grit? Oh, not what's it? The what's his character? I read all the books. Forgetting it now. Where he's that ex-military guy that goes around solving problems and stuff.
Mission Impossible?
No. There's an English writer. Oh God, I'm having a memory blank. I've got so many of his books, and this guy's like supposed to be 6'4" in there, and he's like little Tom Cruise playing the role, and it's just like, oh my God, it'll come to me. But yeah, you got me on the spot there.
Okay, it's all right. Most memorable moment with your wife?
Definitely proposing, because it was at a restaurant, and I was thinking I'll take her for a nice walk along the beach. I thought that would be really romantic. And she says to me, unbeknownst to me, she says, I hope you're not going to take me along the beach to propose. I'd rather you do it here. And there's a guy playing the piano and stuff. So I ended up getting down on my knee and proposing to her in the restaurant and having everyone clap and stuff. So that was pretty memorable.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, the lightning round is over. Thank you for following my shenanigans. I guess if people want to learn more about you, they want to learn more about the marketing services, more about your dad game, the things you've shared with us, what's the best way people can find you?
Yeah, so my website, which, as you say, has got lots of free resources on it for anyone, is msofmarketing.com. So just the letters M, which stands for making, and then S for sense, and of marketing. So msofmarketing.com. Okay. The podcast is called Insights into Success. That's on all the different podcast platforms. And we've got a YouTube channel too, which has got a lot of videos. We video the podcasts and have a lot of other information that's on videos. So if you just look up Making Sense of Marketing on YouTube, you can find us there as well. And we've got a Facebook page, LinkedIn, and Instagram page. Cool.
I will make sure all this is in the show notes. Paul, it's been an honor speaking to just a great dude from New Zealand. And with the power of the internet allows us to meet and talk. And I was honored that I was a guest on your show. And I'm even more honored that you decided to come on my show and talk about things that, dad stuff is not, a lot of the stuff isn't out there. So I hope there's others at home that enjoyed our conversation. I want to say thanks to our sponsors. I want to say thanks to everybody who's taken time to leave a review. If this episode spoke to you, take time to please share it with a friend. But with that, Paul, thank you again for being a guest on the Quarterback Dadcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been really cool, and for me, it's been quite therapeutic as well. And I love talking to you. And it's, as you say, it's so cool to make friends with people across the world like this. And I want to stay in touch.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care. Thank you.